Ladies and gentlemen, WWE Studios presents Boneyard the movie, featuring Alan Jones and Mark Calloway. I'm going to say to you guys, was that a wrestling match? The answer is no. The answer is no. It wasn't a wrestling match. It was just a fight. That's all it was. It was basically something you would watch if you're watching a movie. Now, first things first. If you liked the Boneyard match, that's perfectly fine. You can like the Boneyard match. That is something that's always been my motto on this channel. If you like something, that's great. That's great. But you gotta understand that there's gonna be somebody out there that is not going to like it. And as long as you're respectful to the person that doesn't like what you like, the person will be respectful back to you. I was called delusional because I didn't like the Boneyard match. So apparently my opinion is wrong about the Boneyard match. So if I don't like it, my opinion is wrong. We as fans, we are allowed to like and dislike whatever we want. As fans, we can choose to like something, and we can choose to not like something. But apparently I complain too much. I'm a whiner. I'm a whiner because I complain too much. May I remind you that I don't have to like it? And this isn't about the Boneyard match, this is about another match. But seriously, fans don't have to like something. And here's the thing about the Boneyard match. I'm not a movie person. I'm not a movie guy. I barely ever watch movies. The only movies I ever watched were Disney movies when I was a kid. Watched Toy Story, Toy Story 2, Tarzan. Disney movies. I watched Disney movies. I even watched Pokemon movies when I was a child. Dragon Ball Z movies. I watched those as a child. Those movies I watched as a kid. Movies nowadays I don't watch. I've watched a couple of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's movies. Some of them I did like. But I'm not much of a movie person. This Boneyard match was a movie. That's all it was. It was just a movie. That's all it was. No wrestling. It was just a movie. That's all it was. And I get it, it was filmed. I get it. I get Wrestlemania was filmed and I get it. But as I said, you don't have to like it. It's perfectly fine if you don't like it. And it's perfectly fine if you did like it. But I think the thing that I didn't like is the fact that people get mad at you if you don't like something. People were calling this match of the year. Match of the year. If you put this movie in a cinema, I think it would get... if this was put in a cinema, it would definitely win an Oscar for Best Movie of the Year. It wouldn't win a Match of the Year candidate. It wasn't even a wrestling match. It was a movie. People are comparing it to the Buried Alive match. And yes, that was the vibe I got from it. But again, it was a movie. It was treated as a movie. It wasn't treated as a match. There was no peril. There was no peril involved. There was no sense of worry that, oh my God, is AJ gonna lose? Oh my God, is Taker gonna lose? You know, there was no sense. It was just, we knew, since it had the vibes of a movie, there was music playing. When The Undertaker came driving down on his motorbike, you'd hear music playing. You would hear cryptic music in the background while Taker and Styles are battling it out. But people were ignoring the music. They were like, oh, listen, like Taker and AJ were like talking trash to each other. That's the type of shit you see in a movie as well. You get that in fight scenes in movies. People trash talking each other. You get that in movies as well. Everything that Styles and Taker did is basically you see in a movie. As I said before, I'm not a movie person. I used to only watch cartoon movies when I was a kid. As I just told you guys, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Disney movies. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Here's another thing about movies that you guys probably didn't know. I had to watch a Star Wars movie with my mother once. Because we went to the cinema one time. Because the weather was so hot, we couldn't stay in the house. So my mother was like, come and watch Star Wars with me in the cinemas. And I didn't like it. I wasn't a Star Wars fan. I didn't know what was going on in the movie. You have to be like a movie fanatic. And because there were so many people praising this match, I guess you're all a bunch of movie fans. I guess everybody are a bunch of movie fans. I thought everyone was going to call... I thought this was the worst WrestleMania of all time. Honestly. People were going to call this the worst WrestleMania of all time. But apparently this Undertaker AJ Styles Boneyard movie match apparently saved WrestleMania. Apparently it saved WrestleMania. It was match of the night. I'm sorry, but the triple threat ladder match was match of the night. Because that was actually a match. Undertaker did win the Boneyard match by burying AJ Styles. It had a buried alive concept to it. Now don't get me wrong, like I said in my Raw reviews, that the Boneyard match had a resemblance to the buried alive match. Which is fine. I understood that. And that was perfectly fine. But as I said, people were comparing this to a buried alive match. But a buried alive match is actually a match. The buried alive match was actually a match. It wasn't cinematic. It wasn't filmed as a movie. It was actually a match with a gravesite in the wrestling arena. It was actually a match. This Boneyard match wasn't a match. It was a movie. That's all it was. It boggles my mind. It boggles my mind. Like, look, as I said, you can like it if you want. But it really boggles my mind why you do. I understand why you like it if you actually give me a good, legitimate reason if why you enjoyed it, other than, oh, if you actually give me a good, legitimate reason why you liked it, maybe I'll respect it more. But as long as you respect my opinion on what I think about this match, then your opinion is as important as mine. So that's my opinion on the Boneyard match. As I call it, Boneyard the movie. We're going to be getting the exact same thing. We're going to be getting this exact same thing with John Cena and The Fiend. A movie. But try to treat it as an actual match. But apparently this Boneyard was an actual match. Apparently it wasn't a movie at all to many people that praised it. But whatever. Like I said, if you like it, that's perfectly fine. But I didn't like it. So the pre-show, we had Cesaro beat Drew Gulak. This was out of nowhere. They announced 2 pre-show matches. The night 1 pre-show match was Cesaro and Drew Gulak. And the night 2 pre-show was Liv Morgan and Natalya. And I was confused on why it wasn't Ruby Riott. I was confused why it wasn't Ruby Riott versus Liv Morgan. Maybe they're planning on saving that for another pay-per-view, and it's on the main card. But other than that, I can't think of any other reason. Maybe Ruby Riott couldn't make it. Other than that, I don't know why Liv Morgan and Natalya are facing each other. But we'll worry about that on night 2 tomorrow. So Cesaro beat Drew Gulak on the night 1 pre-show. First match was the Kabuki Warriors defending their belts against Bliss Cross in a 15 minutes. Look, I love women's matches. But honestly, I felt this was very, very, very boring. Very boring, very slow. I'm not blaming that on Asuka. I'm not blaming that on Kairi. I more think it might have to do with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Felt so slow and boring. But then again, I can't blame all the talent. If I can't blame Asuka and Nikki Cross, if I can't blame Asuka and Kairi, and if I'm blaming Alexa and Nikki, people will get mad at me. So how about this? I won't blame anyone. How about I won't blame anyone and I'll just say this match was slow and boring. So that way I won't get anybody triggered in the comment section. It was nobody's fault. All 4 of these women tried the best they could, but it was slow. Very slow, very boring. And Alexa Bliss did probably the weakest twist of bliss I've ever seen. And don't get me wrong, I love that move. But that twisted bliss at the very end on Kairi Sane was so weak. It was so weak. Kairi Sane should have easily kicked out of that sloppy, twisted bliss. But Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross win. They're the first ever 2-time tag team champions. Wow, that was so darn predictable, now was it? Once again, WWE going back to their loving favorites. They can't pass the belts to other new people. They have to go right back to the same people they rely on. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte. Once again, Alexa Bliss is a champion. Can't have a year without Alexa Bliss without a title. Alexa Bliss is a lot like Charlotte. We can't have a year without her without a belt. Can't go through a full year without Bliss holding a belt. Awesome. Can't wait for Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross to do exactly the same as the Kabuki Warriors and not defend their belts and not go on Raw and not go on NXT. They'll be busy doing Moment of Bliss segments from the next 4 months and not do a goddamn thing with those belts. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. They will not leave SmackDown. They won't go to Raw. They won't go to Raw to face the Iconics. They won't go down to NXT to take on the tag team in NXT. They'll sit their asses on SmackDown just doing their Moment of Bliss segments, and people will soon forget about these belts. So everything that Alexa Bliss will accuse Asuka and Kairi from doing, they will do the exact same thing. Guarantee it. So next we had Elias taking on King Corbin. Didn't care about this match. This match was, it wasn't bad, I guess. But Elias wins the match via roll-up, and he pulls Corbin's tights. He did a little Eddie Guerrero. Lying, cheating, and stealing. He did a little Eddie Guerrero there. Next we had Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. Oh my god, man. Here's the thing. And this is me being honest. What did I say on my Raw review? What did I say on my predictions video? I said Shayna Baszler attacking Becky Lynch means that Becky Lynch was going to retain. Am I wrong? Was I wrong? No? Good. So Shayna loses one match. And everyone starts erupting that Shayna is buried. So apparently a person can't afford to take one loss. So apparently losing one match means you're buried. Oh my god, man. This is just ridiculous. This is just so damn funny. It's so damn funny. So it was okay for Shayna Baszler to bury everybody in that Elimination Chamber, but apparently Becky Lynch beating Shayna Baszler means she's buried now. Becky didn't even bury Shayna either. Good grief, man. I said from the very beginning, as soon as I saw what Shayna did on Monday Night Raw, I knew Becky was going to win. And the main thing of why else I think Becky Lynch won is because there were no people. I feel like if there were people in attendance, and this is me being honest, I'm being honest. I'm telling you, if there were people in the crowd, I am very darn sure Shayna Baszler would have won. I'm very sure. I am very damn sure. Very 100% sure. Very confident in my words. I am very damn confident in my words. If there were 80,000 people in Tampa Bay, we would have had a new Raw Women's Champion. Because there was no people, and because of the coronavirus, they gave it to Becky. They let Becky retain, because Becky can't go on her break. Becky can't go on hiatus, as what everybody's been reporting. If there was no coronavirus, I would have believed it. But because of the coronavirus, Becky can't go on hiatus. She can't marry Seth Rollins while there's a coronavirus going around. So Becky Lynch retains and everybody throws a gasket while I'm sitting here laughing my ass off because I was right. Sami Zayn defeats Daniel Bryan. Sami Zayn defeats Daniel Bryan with a fascinating haluva kick. That was very creative from Sami Zayn. I'll definitely give him that. He retains the Intercontinental Championship, and I think that's fine. I think Sami Zayn retaining is a good move. I think Sami Zayn should run through some of the mid-carders like a Chad Gables, your Apollo Crews, until he runs in to that big white fella, Sheamus. I feel like Sheamus is the perfect guy to end Sami's reign. Sami needs to beat a couple more opponents. He needs to beat, people like Elias, people like Drew Gulak, people like Apollo Crews and Chad Gable, until he runs into that big, sweaty Celtic warrior and Sheamus boots his head off, and that is when we'll have a new Intercontinental Champion. SmackDown Tag Team Championships were defended in a triple threat match. And The Miz is sick. And The Miz got sick. He pulled out. So it was John Morrison defending against Jimmy Uso and Kofi Kingston. And John Morrison retained the tag team belts. And in my personal opinion, this is match of the night. This was match of the night. And very creative ending. The hook came off. And Kofi and the Usos were trying to knock John Morrison off. But when they knocked John Morrison off the ladder, John Morrison grabbed one of the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, and Jimmy and Kofi looked at the hook, and they noticed there was no titles. And John Morrison had his hands on the titles as he was falling. Very creative ending. I gotta give WWE credit for that. That was a very creative ending. So, you remember when Daniel Bryan used to always yell? You remember when Daniel Bryan and Kane used to always yell at each other saying, "I'm the tag team champion. I'm the tag team champion." Well, guess what? John Morrison is the tag team champion. So John Morrison retains. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Johnny Morrison. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Retains. So then we get Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. Excuse me. This was okay. This was okay. I was okay with this match. Ended by DQ, and then Kevin Owens demanded Seth to get back into the ring, have a no disqualification match. Kevin Owens did a splash off the Wrestlemania sign, and then would deliver a stunner to Seth Rollins and pinning him 1, 2, 3. And Kevin Owens wins. Kevin Owens finally gets his WrestleMania moment. We have the Universal Championship match. It is Goldberg or Oldberg defending his Universal Championship against Braun Strowman, who was originally supposed to be Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns pulled out due to the coronavirus, which I applaud Roman Reigns. I applaud Roman Reigns for putting his health first. I applaud him for putting his health in front of him first. But that didn't stop WWE. They gave the Universal Championship to Braun Strowman after Braun Strowman delivered 4 power slams. Goldberg got in some offense as well. He got in like 3 spears. He tried a jackhammer, but Braun Strowman was too big. He couldn't jackhammer him, and then Braun delivered like 4 power slams, and that was pretty much it there. That was pretty much the end of it right there. And Braun Strowman finally wins the Universal Championship after 4 attempts. Can we realize that Braun Strowman went from losing to Tyson Fury, a boxer, to winning the Intercontinental Championship, losing it to Sami Zayn, to winning the Universal Championship? That is very bizarre. And then after that, we had the Boneyard the movie. Undertaker won. And you guys know how I feel about Boneyard the movie featuring Alan Jones and Mark Calloway. So that's it. That's your part 1 of WrestleMania. That was your part 1 of WrestleMania. Hit that thumbs up if you guys did enjoy the review. Comment your thoughts down below. And I'll see you all tomorrow for night 2 of WrestleMania. See you then.